Bubba Wallace here from 2311 Racing. You know what's slower than a pace car? Waiting at the car wash. That's when I fire up Chumba Casino. It turns those slow minutes into fast fun. With new games every week, you'll never get bored. Next time you're stuck in the slow lane, speed up with Chumba. Play now at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
If you work in university maintenance, Granger considers you an MVP because your playbook ensures your arena is always ready for tip-off. And Granger is your trusted partner, offering the products you need all in one place, from HVAC and plumbing supplies to lighting and more. And all delivered with plenty of time left on the clock, so your team always gets the win. Call 1-800-GRANGER, visit Granger.com, or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
He's an old head.
Youngins are really starting to get on my damn nerves.
He's a purveyor of nonsense. He's a Georgia high school coaching job influencer. His favorite Bible verse is, Jesus wept. He's the man of constant sorrow, Chris Lamb.
Yeah.
Sun Coaches is proud to partner with Titan Sports for the next 4 seasons on Sun Coaches podcast. Titan GPS delivers technological superiority and improved player performance through wearable GPS made for high school football and strength and conditioning. From speed training to athlete recruit to workload enhancement, Titan is the easy-to-use yet comprehensive GPS tool to get it done. There's no minimum to get started, and Titan will walk you through every step to success. Message us on X at Titan Sensor to learn more and get in touch. Welcome to Sun Coaches Podcast, and it's season 4, and today got one of the best in the game right now, one of the best to ever do it. He has officially become an old head. I don't think he'll mind me saying that. We grew up coaching against each other. I grew up coaching against him. He's the head coach at Douglas County, Coach Johnny T. White. Thanks for being on with us, Coach.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, well, I'm old now, so it is what it is.
There ain't nothing wrong with it. We earn these gray hairs.
Hey, man, thank God for every day he allows me to be on top of the soil.
That's right, above the dirt. Everybody asks me every day, how you doing today? I'm like, above the dirt, baby. I'm above the
Amen
dirt.
to that.
So where'd you grow up, Coach?
I grew up in Virginia Beach, Virginia.
Okay.
Yep, I'm a Virginia guy. Grew up in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Crazy story, committed to North Carolina A&T out of high school. And my mother had me young, so my grandmother raised me. So on signing day, me and my mom, at the little ceremony, signed a North Carolina A&T scholarship. And my grandmother says, you forget to realize your mother's not your legal guardian. I am. And you're not going to A&T. You're going to Liberty University. Liberty had recruited me, but I never went on a visit, anything. My grandmother said, no, you're going to Liberty. So I waited so long that when I finally called Liberty back, saying your scholarship's gone, you're going to have to walk on your freshman year. So I went to Liberty, walked on, and got my scholarship back. So I spent 5 years at Liberty University. The best decision my grandmother ever made for me.
Fan the Flames.
Ever. Fan the Flames. Played underneath San Rutigliano.
Okay. You're probably a little older than Biff Parson. He played there.
Yeah, I know Biff very well.
Yeah,
I know Biff very well.
Biff and Rhett both played there. I coached with Rhett.
Mm-hmm.
I know the Parsons pretty well. And there's a bunch of guys that played at Liberty, surprisingly, that coach in Georgia.
Yeah.
So what position did you play at Liberty?
I went in as a linebacker and got fat and realized I couldn't run we played a lot of 2-man and I couldn't run with those slot receivers. So they made me a defensive lineman and I put on the weight and ended up starting my last 2 years there and played DN there at Liberty.
So did you always know you were going to coach or did you go there?
Always knew. Always knew.
So
I had a basketball coach in high school and middle school by the name of Ron Jenkins. And he was the first black man that we had, because we all came from low income, areas. He was the first black man that really changed our lives. I mean, like, made us all at 7th, 8th grade, made us all learn how to tie ties. On game days, we had to wear slacks and, ties to school, and just showed us the right way. And I just wanted to do that. to give back the same way he gave back to us. There's so many of my cousins and friends back home that are in education all because of him. And he's still living, so it's great to talk to him and everything, just give back the way. So I knew probably my second year in college that I wanted to come back and do that, so that's what I did.
Well, that's awesome. What was your first job out of school?
My first job was going back crazy. So back home in Virginia Beach, I went to a school called First Colonial under the great Frank Webster, who's still around. He was the head coach there for 30 years and never had a losing season.
Dang.
Yes, and that it was so crazy. I can remember my junior year, us being 6-4, and the old heads wouldn't speak to us because we had let them down. I mean, they were used to being unbelievable, but the problem was back then the playoff system was so messed up. It was 8 teams in our region, and only the region champ went. So my junior year, we are 9-1 and sitting at home because the team that won the region was 8-0-2. That's when you played. They didn't have overtime, whatever. Yeah. So I went back home and ended up taking a job with our arch rival. Because my school didn't have any teaching positions open. So I went to Green Run High School, worked for this guy named Cadillac Harris, who's my second big mentor. And I was his defensive coordinator straight out of college. They had never won over 7 games while he was the head coach. We go 10-2 the first year and 12-1 the second year. So I'm 25, enjoying life, back home, doing well. And after spring break, Cadillac doesn't come back to school for a week. And all the coaches like, where's Cadillac? We don't know. So I never forget it. I'm in class in April, 25 years old, teaching my world geography class. And he walks in my room and he says, we got to go to the front office. And I'm scared to death, like, what the heck I done did? I ain't done nothing. I've been doing everything I'm supposed to do. Yeah. So he walks me in the principal office and he tells the principal, he says, I just took the job at Elizabeth State University being their head coach. He says, so you have 10 minutes. Either Johnny White's going to be the youngest head coach in the state of Virginia, or Johnny White's going to be the youngest defensive coordinator in Division II football. All right, Johnny, let's go. And we walk out the room. He didn't warn me or anything.
That's awesome.
10 minutes later, I am the head coach of Green Run High School.
And you drinking water out of a fire hose.
I don't have a clue what to do. I'm doing everything off the nip, and then it was so crazy. So I'm 25, and I got a 7-guy staff, and I think I had one older guy who was on the staff, and the rest of us were in our early to mid 20s. And
we probably had fun though.
Oh yeah, had a ball with our kids.
Baptism by fire. Crazy.
Baptism by fire. At least once a week, all the coaches would put on gear and practice with the team.
The old days.
It was crazy. Yeah, it was crazy. So then, right after our season in '98, Coach Sam called me back. My D-line coach, who helped raise me at Liberty, a guy by the name of Darryl Day, he takes a job being the head coach at Nicholls State. So Coach Sam took the honor, asked me to come back to Liberty to replace him. So I went and coached D-line there for 2 years.
Well, what was that like making the well, you were younger, but I mean, making the transition back to college?
I didn't realize how much they worked. Like I still to this day, like I tell people, I don't know how guys do it with full families. I was single. So like the recruiting, being on the road all the time, all the hours, back then there weren't cell phones. So like every Thursday night, we didn't leave because even then Liberty recruited on the West Coast. So every Thursday we're making calls to recruits. We get off the field probably 7:30 and we're not leaving until 11 o'clock, making calls to recruits, trying to set up visits and all that. And then once recruiting season started, we were on the road so much. So it was a great experience. I enjoyed it. But then that's how God works. So I'm in Macon, Georgia, recruiting a set of twin brothers at Central Macon High School. And cell phones that just came out. This is April of 2000. School that just gave us cell phones. And I get a call from the head coach saying that he had just retired, but stay on the road and keep recruiting. They're going to give the offensive coordinator the job. So I'm sitting there agreeing offer these two brothers. You want to try to set up visits for them in the summer or in the fall. And then 15 minutes later, the AD calls back and said, nope, we just hired somebody that's not on staff. Y'all got 48 hours to get back to school. So I tell the head coach, who at the time was CB Cornett, who came from Macon County. Yeah, he was the head coach at Central. So I said, well, I wanted to offer these guys, but they got a new coaching staff. I said, but I'll make sure that the new coaching staff needs to make sure they come back and see these guys. And CB said, well, you told me you used to coach high school. What are you going to do next year? I said, I don't know. And then he says, well, I got a defensive coordinator job open right now. So I went downtown, did my application and signed the contract and moved to Central Macon. Moved to Central Macon in June. Didn't know anything about it.
That's what I'm talking about. Bird in hands better than two in the bush.
Hey, I needed a job.
You're right. You got to eat.
Yeah, so. And plus, my best friend in college played for CB Cornett High School at Macon County. Oh, so that made it.
You got to work for a legend, another legend.
Yeah, no question. The best weight room guy I've ever seen in my life.
So you start out at Central Macon in Georgia with the incomparable CB Cornett.
Yeah,
man. That's
and then I met my wife. So she had my wife's a pediatrician, so she had to do her residency in Chattanooga. So I wanted to get a little closer to her. So I wanted to move to the Metro Atlanta area. So I took a job at Bear Creek Middle School. Was there for a year, and then the Creekside job came open. I interviewed, didn't get it, but they hired Kevin Whitley, and Whitley asked me to come on staff with him, and that was one of the best decisions I ever made in my life, working for Kevin Whitley.
Yeah, that's when we crossed paths, when we talked about that off air, when I was at Lithia with Isaac Farrell and that region we were in, and you had Eric Berry and a bunch of other great players. I just distinctly remember him because I was the defensive coordinator.
You know what's so crazy? I remember back then. Remember now, we didn't have a non-region game.
No,
it was 11 teams. We had all straight region games.
Yeah, because
it was 10 straight region games.
Y'all, Northgate.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
And Sandy Creek were like the South Side guys.
And McIntosh was in that region.
That's right, McIntosh too. And then you had us and Woodward and Douglas County, Chapel Hill, Alexander were kind of in the middle. And then you had
don't forget about Harrison County.
And then you had Harrison County and Villa Rica were kind of out there. And that's where Harrison had that Brandon Wood kid that was daggone. He was good. Megatron played for Sandy Creek. I mean, there were some dudes. Y'all had dudes. It was like, man.
Yeah, that was a tough region.
We're like, when we going to play Alexander and Chapel Hill? Because we weren't, we were on the low end. So it was us battling out with them. We talked about Ricky Dobbs playing at Douglas County, and man, they were loaded. I mean, it was like, dude.
Had that big 6'5" receiver.
Yeah, and they get in quads open, just running all crazy. And then he goes to the Naval Academy, runs the Veer. I mean, it's just a great, man, y'all did such a great job over at Creekside.
Yeah, we had a great staff. Willie Cannon, who's the AD at Langston, he was on that staff. Daniel Boone Williams had just started coaching. He was on that staff. We had a great staff. And it was fun.
You were there for 5 years?
I was there for 10 altogether.
Oh, 10. Okay.
7 as the DC and then 3 as the head coach.
So you took over when Witt left?
Yeah, when Witt went to Stockbridge, I took over.
Oh, okay. That's right. Mm-hmm. And that was your first head coaching job in Georgia?
Yes.
So you had a long period of time between when you were a head coach at 25
Yeah.
And then, so you probably learned a lot. I mean, I'm not saying
A
you
whole
didn't know
lot.
that you didn't know anything before.
Oh,
but you know
no.
what I'm saying.
You said it right. I learned a lot. Especially the transition between Virginia and Georgia. Because in Virginia, the numbers aren't the same. Like in Virginia, everybody went both ways. It's so funny that I tell the story. So when I was in Virginia Beach, I coached Plexico Birds that played with the Steelers and the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
And Plexico was a parade All-American at receiver, but never made All-State at receiver in Virginia. But he always made All-State at free safety. Because everybody went both ways. Like, it blew my mind to see two platoon when I first moved to Georgia.
You thought, what are y'all doing? Y'all weak. What's wrong?
Exactly. Why these guys aren't going both ways?
Yeah.
But because the talent, like, and Virginia does have good talent, but the interior, the line difference, I think that's the biggest difference. So
that's what
I learned a lot.
I was talking to Kevin Saunders the other day. I had him on the podcast, and he was in Virginia. He said, now the top end schools, he's like, they can compete with the top end schools here. He said the problem is the smaller, the lower classification and smaller schools. He said their bad schools are bad. And he said, you can find a 1-9 school in Georgia that'll still have a D1 Power 4 kid on the roster. And he's like, that's just not the case up there. The talent's more, it's more centralized in certain, places.
Like I said, we had 2 great years at Green Run, and I can remember it like it was yesterday. On offense, our quarterback and our center were the only 2 guys that did not go both ways.
Man.
That's it.
And if you tried to do that with some of these kids today, they'd look at you like,
oh, man. Oh, man, it would be impossible.
Well, I remember in, 2010 or 11 when Lowndes, Coach Matt Fearson's first state championship, they went up there, they had 120-something kids. I swear they only played with like 17 of them.
Yeah.
And they went
that's another big difference is the numbers game. You're not going to find a team in Virginia with 100 kids on their roster.
So how was, what was the biggest thing you learned? Because this is interesting to me, and I want the younger coaches to hear, your first head coaching job at 25, and then what was the biggest difference once you took over again as a more experienced coach that you're like, all right, I made this mistake when I was younger. I'm going to make sure this time, was it organizational skills? Was it relating to the community or the administration? I mean, what were some things that you think, looking back, that you're like, oh yeah, I did that better when I had more experience than I did when I was just fresh out?
I think administration is the most important. I think that you need to realize that even though you're the head coach, you still got a boss, and that is not your team, it's their team. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like, to this day, I never take a team picture without my administration in the picture. Never. I never take a football picture without my principal or my principal and AD in the picture, because it's their football team. Also, from a management point, I think when I first started coaching, you want to put your hands into everything. And now, you make sure you hire good people and you let them run it the best way they can. One of the best things, like I said, even though I had the 3 years as head coach, I think I learned from 2 great people. I learned from Kevin Whitley, of course, and Willie Cannon when I left Creekside and went to Langston. And Willie Cannon's favorite quote is, each position coach is always the head coach of their position. I think that's important. Take ownership to it and do all that. So I think now I'm not coaching a position, because when I was a head coach in Virginia, I still had to coach a position, because back then in Virginia, they only paid 6 coaches. So everybody had to coach both ways, this, that, and the third. I think now for me, it's all about my relationships with the kids, trying to build that first, not really worrying about what they can do football-wise, but how things go on with their family. Faith is always very important to me, making sure they see that in me. I'm not going to try to give them or pour it on them, but I just want them to see that in me, and hopefully that'll be something big. And just organization. It don't take 4 hours to get it done. I try to be I tell the kids I got ADD, so I try to be quick, very detailed, very specific in what we do. And I think in my coaching career, I think the last 3 or 4 years, we've done a very good job of that.
Oh, absolutely. So after Creekside, where did you go after the 3 years as head coach at Creekside?
I went to Langston. I went to Langston Hughes. It was just time for a move for me at Creekside. Went to Langston, became the assistant head coach there. And then it was crazy when I was coaching at Creekside in those early years. I was also the track coach. And the principal at Douglas County used to be the track coach. So we used to have our region meets at Woodward every year. And me and the other track coach at Creekside, who's still there, Scott Vaughn, would spend a lot of time with the head coaches at Douglas County just for track meets because we were all track fans. And then back then, those track meets were unbelievable. We had a lot of speed and a lot of athleticism. And we would just talk and chop it up. And when he became the principal and the job opened up at Douglas County, we played him when I was at Langston. And he said, would you be interested in interviewing? So that's what I did. And it's the best decision I've ever made is going to Douglas County.
Well, I've heard, I haven't seen it because I haven't been up there since I was there, but your facility upgrade at Douglas County, I wouldn't recognize it from when we played there in the early 2000s.
You wouldn't recognize it at all. At all. It's crazy.
I've heard this state-of-the-art, unbelievable, fantastic.
Definitely been blessed. We went from a 3,000-seat stadium to a 6,500-seat stadium. The old home side that you remember is now the away side. We have a 2-story sports complex with 125 locker room. Each locker has 4 USB ports in the combination locker where they can plug everything up. A nice weight room, 80-seat meeting room, coaches' offices, a VIP room for games that has a patio that overlooks the field. Is real nice.
Oh yeah,
we've been blessed.
Yeah, that ain't nothing like what we coached on when we were up there back in the old days. And
not that old facility.
Yeah, when Joby was running the offense over there, and Coach Johnson was still around, and they still got them. And
Coach Williams,
yeah, all those guys. I mean, it was just something serious up there. We'll talk about the dynamics of working in another multi-school system. You know, a lot of guys, don't understand the different things that you have to deal with when you're a metro. Like, when the jobs come open, I'll put on there, this is a metro guy job. And people are like, what does that mean? And I'm like, well, I mean, if you're coming from a single school system, you better understand it's a little bit different, the things you have to deal with transportation and, zoning and other kids. And kids are transient. They move in, they move out. And, what are some things that you would tell people that are different about being in a big school system where it ain't like you got 3 little schools in the system. You got 5 big schools with, 1,500 plus kids at each school.
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing is if you're coming from a single school area, is that things you can ask for in the one school area, you can't ask for in a metro area. And with that being said, like even from a financial standpoint, you got to understand that you may have a resume that says, well, you should be making this amount of money. But understand that in a metro area, if they do that for one coach, they got to do it for every coach in the county. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So it's an equity thing in terms of that. Transportation is a little bit different. The middle schools, very seldom do metro schools have one middle school that totally feeds them. You know what I mean? So, and then just like you said, the movement of kids, especially now, because, a lot of kids, especially, the position I think is more avid is the quarterback position. It's hard to have a kid that's pretty good, but not good enough to start, but could really help you to sit there and wait his turn. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They're going to leave and go someplace else where they think they can play. So the metro areas are definitely different in terms of that.
Well, and a lot of people may not understand exactly, the location of Douglas County High School. You sit right on the corner of the South Cobb County, and then
Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. Victory Lane? Yeah, it's even better with Chumba by my side. Race to ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See T&Cs. 21 plus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
Southern Paulding County, I mean, they're right there. I mean, you can throw a rock and hit 7 high schools from where you're at. I mean, you're literally across the street from Chapel Hill High School.
On the same road. On the same road. And then what's so crazy is South Paulding has a Douglasville address.
Sure does.
So, you know, it is close.
And
it's close.
And if kids get mad at Coach White or, you know, whoever, and mama gets mad about something, there's enough housing that they can just pile up and move.
Yeah.
You know,
I think the big thing that we did when we first got there is that we flooded social media with everything we're doing well. And I got to take it wasn't me. It was Travis Smith, who was the OC assistant head coach at the time, who's now the athletic director at Griffin. I mean, we flooded the market trying to make sure, because it was funny when we got there, we noticed that all the teams around us all had great players that started off playing at Douglas County. So we wanted to keep the kids that were zoned for us. And then, you know, in Douglas County, some of those kids have the opportunity, you know, a lot of counties have that, whether it's magnet programs or things of that nature, to try to attract kids to come from other middle schools in the area. So we just tried to do that as well. You know, we're blessed with an IB program with the smart kids. So that was a good attraction for us as well, because from an academic standpoint, Douglas County is going to always be pretty high. So we did the Travis flooded the market, talked about our GPA, about the things we did well in, academically, and then we started playing good football, which helped the matter. So both of those things worked.
Yeah, it's been a slow build. I mean, it's not like you just automatically overnight went from, you know, the very good Douglas County schools to elite. I mean, you had to build it. I mean, and you saw it every year, the improvement every year, first round, second round, and then now, you know, perennial Final Four team, it seems like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely been a build. The kids have been working their tails off too. So we just gotta find a way to just keep getting better. You know, just work every day, worry about the next game, and see if we can find a way to finish it.
Well, that's one of the things I've heard a lot of Metro guys talk about. I had Mario Drayton from McNair on, and he said one of the biggest things that you have to do is, like you said, you got to build a wall around your place. You got to keep yours in, and then try to get the ones back. You know, and you do it by what you said, selling your program. You know, what are we doing well? I'm not going to tear down what other people are doing. Don't care what other people are doing, but this is what we're doing.
There's too many good coaches and good programs to tear down anybody in Metro Atlanta, in my opinion.
Right.
You know what I mean? I can't talk bad about anybody else. All I can do is talk great about what we do at DC.
That's right.
And that's it.
And that's the way it ought to be. We're supposed to be in this together, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And all these people crying and moaning, you know, I went on Rampage the other day, you know, everybody recruiting and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, look, the only way, you know, it is what it is. Kids move, kids do whatever. And the only way anybody's ever going to be able to get a hold on it is if they make a rule where it's like, you know, go by Form Bs or whatever. I mean, I don't know what, but it don't matter.
I don't have, it doesn't.
You got to play. I mean, there's nothing, they're doing the same thing. Just put your head down, go to work, and, you know, do whatever. Because you got, it's backing up earlier and earlier with all-star games for 8th graders and 7th graders. I was like, well, if I were y'all, I'd start going and looking at them kids and selling my program and getting them in middle school, because in 9th grade, they can go wherever they want to.
Exactly. I totally agree. But I agree with that. Just, I can't worry about nobody else but Douglas County. That's it. I got to do what's best for my program. And we may not be a fit for you, and I'm fine with that. And I'm going to support you wherever you go. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
But if you're here, then we're going to pour into you. And you go to other places, they're going to do the same. So,
well, I know this past weekend, which this is going to date, you know, when we recorded, you got to participate in the elite all-star rising juniors and seniors all-star game that Mon Tinker puts on. How was that?
It's always a great experience. You get to meet some new kids. Like I told the kids after the game, you know, you got a new mouthpiece now. So when they're looking for different positions in schools, I may not have it, but I can say, look, I coach this kid at Creekside, or I coach this kid at Carver, Atlanta, and they're great football players. So that's the great experience. What I love about Tinker's game is that, and they say it in their little mantra, that it's bigger than football. I mean, just the experience that they get talking to former players that have been to college. Some of them been to the NFL. I coached a kid named Josh Hosey, who went to Auburn, played with the Redskins a couple of years. He even worked for the NFL Players Association. And then Shaq Wiggins from Sandy Creek. They come back and they spend 2 hours just talking to the kids, because it's best for kids who have it, who want to get to that very next level or get to the highest level. What is it like? And I can't tell them about that, but we brought in people that could, so that was great as well.
Now, y'all also do an NIL piece too, don't you?
Yes, NIL piece, social media piece, letting these kids know it's not what you post, it's always what you like sometimes that could get you in some trouble, you know what I mean? Liking the wrong post is just as bad as posting it yourself. So it's a great experience for those guys.
Yeah, we can tell them until we're blue in the face, but it's a lot better coming from kids that are closer to or men that are closer to their age sometimes, because they look at us and we're dad,
Yeah, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're talking about.
I looked at my son today. I looked at my son today. I said, "Hey, man, what are you looking at?" "Oh, nothing." And I was like, "No, I mean, you're posting on something. I'm just curious. I don't care. What is it?" And he would not tell me. I was like, "Look, dude, I just want to know what it is." And he finally told me. I was like, "Okay, that's all you had to do. I'm not going to tell you can't do it. I'm just curious, trying to have a conversation."
Exactly.
But that's awesome that y'all do that with those kids, and that it's more than just the game. If they're that elite, they need to start learning about financial responsibility and what their tax burden might be if they're NIL, and all that kind of thing that goes with it. That in bringing other guys in to have that conversation with them, I think that's more important. I mean, because football is going to take care of itself, in my opinion.
No question. No question.
Counters, counter. They're going to run this. You go run and tackle. But who you surround yourself with and learning financial literacy and things like that, I think is something not just football players or basketball players or athletes. I think all high school kids need to be taught, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. And if you're elite, it don't matter where you're at in high school. They're going to find you.
Oh, ain't no doubt. I mean, you know this. We've been doing it long enough, and, I'm done now. But, I mean, they'd ask us, y'all got anybody? No, Coach, I ain't got nobody. But down there at Langston Hughes, they got some things. Or, over there at Drew's got a, receiver y'all need to go take a look at. And, we'd send people back when they would go places.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the biggest thing now with this portal is that, you don't see colleges out as much as you used to, especially the lower levels, because they're strictly in the portal.
Coach, I told somebody, I do the hospitality suite for Coach of the Year clinic down in Orlando, and I meet college coaches or whatever, and they were talking, and I don't bother them. I normally just sit there and watch Golf Channel or whatever. And they asked me, they find out you're from Georgia, and their eyes light up and their ears perk up, and they want to talk to you then. And I was like, look, I ain't telling y'all how to do your business, but y'all don't recruit like you used to because you can do everything online. But if I were y'all, I'd draw a line from Macon all the way till you hit the Mississippi River and then go south till you hit Cuba. You can find 11 football players that can make your team better.
Exactly. The state championship said it all. Look at it. This was the first year I can remember, and I watched every state championship game. Where were the college coaches? Usually they flood the Georgia State Championship game. There were few and far between at the games this time.
Couldn't find them.
Could not find them. And usually they would have whole staffs there. But they're too busy hosting visits of portal kids.
Yeah, it's changed. And these high school kids are going to have to realize that, I mean, I've seen a lot of posts about it, that if you get an offer, just get your foot in the door. Just get in. Because now that there's freedom of movement, you can.
Exactly.
I don't care if it's NIA, whatever. If somebody wants you to come play at Northeast South Dakota State, go. They're going to play for you. Go.
Funniest story I tell about that is it was last January, I think it was. Anywhere, and it was in the winter doing recruiting, second semester. And we had Clemson and Auburn at our school to look at some guys. And then after, they just stayed up in the office and just talked for like hours. And I'm like, I ain't trying to be funny, but why y'all hanging around? You know, it's just us. Y'all got someplace else to go? Then, yeah, coach, we're going to see this DN that plays at Shorter. At Shorter. Because he's in the portal and we're thinking about, you know, trying to set up home visits with the kid. That's the difference now.
And they're competing with kids that have already played.
Mm-hmm.
And rough. Well, what else has changed over the years, you think? Or, well, the high school game. Like, what are some things, good or bad, that you've noticed over the years that have changed in the game, or the coaching aspect of it, that's either bothers you or that you think's better for the game, or, you know, just some things over the years that you've seen that you're like, well, that's different than it used to be?
I'm going to tell you the biggest thing to me, believe it or not, is highlight tapes. Because I can remember back at Creekside that kids were actually trying to pay people to make their highlight tapes. You know what I mean? Now with Hubble and everything, they can do that instantaneously on their own. I think the recruiting definitely changed. I think no school is regional at all. So these kids aren't competing for spots at West Georgia just with Georgia kids. They're competing with everybody in the country. I think the coaching's gotten better, in my opinion, at every level. I think there's some great coaches at most schools in Georgia. I think it's also based on the number, though, based on where you're at and what your booster club can do. Some schools may have 10 coaches. Some schools may have 20. The more eyes you got, the better you should be. So I think that's important as well. The movement is the movement. I think kids move more now, you know, trying to get to what's hot. I think those are the biggest differences, in my opinion.
What's your overall coaching philosophy? I've had some younger coaches want me to ask the old heads. They want to hear, you know, like you're sitting down for an interview and they say, Coach White, what's your philosophy? What's your coaching? Like, we're going to hire you. What's your deal?
My first thing to young coaches is, and I say it all the time, don't chase kids, chase administration. That's big for me, because you could be in the right program with a lot of great kids, but administration can handcuff you on what you can do and not do. They may not even be willing to put together a weightlifting class with just your football players in it or things of that nature. You got to make sure that administration you're working for is all in as well, that they have the same ideas and goals that you have. So to me, that's the biggest thing. I would never take a job. I'm not going to be looking. I hope to retire from Douglas County, but I would never take a job where the administration isn't caveat on how important football is. And I've been blessed to work for two principals at Douglas County that really have a bigger idea and aspirations about our football team than I do. I think the main reason we've gotten better at Douglas County is because of the two principals I work for, as well as the athletic director. So I think that's more important than chasing kids. Yeah, this team is loaded, but you can't get them all in weightlifting, or you don't even have a football weightlifting class, or you're in meetings all day. I mean, all that stuff is important to me.
Well, when you go into a job, which I know you're not going to take another one, but when you went into Creekside as the head coach, you were already there, so that was a little bit different. But when you went back and you went to Douglas County, what was the first thing that you thought you needed to do to change, you know, to put your stamp on it when you got there?
Pride in the school. Make sure that these kids realize that your name's not on the back, but it's Tigers on the front, and that you're playing for a community. Put some pride in the community about your program. It's bigger than you. I don't care how good you are, it's bigger than you. You're not playing for yourself, you're playing for the guy standing right or playing right beside you. putting a situation together and doing some things where these kids learn to love each other. I think you can't play hard for somebody that you don't care about. As me as a coach as well. So I try to be. I think it's all based on relationships. My college coach used to always say, I even have it on my Twitter. Kids don't care how much you know. Kids don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. I think that's very important.
So what?
My kids know.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
My kids know that I care about them first more than anything. I may not like what you did during this situation, but I'm never gonna not care about you. So, and they know that. So I think that's important.
Yeah, especially these days that we're trying to build young men and get them to understand, son, I love you. I don't love your behavior sometimes. That's not going to change. That's not going to change how I feel about you. Let's not.
Exactly.
And a lot of times they don't understand that because society tells them one thing, and we have to go back in and go, well, it's not you, it's your behavior. It's not you as a person. It's the choices you've made. Let's reevaluate the choices you're making. But it has no effect on how I feel about you. I'm going to make you act right.
Yeah, and the conversation with the parents is caveat as well. Like I tell them, I want to win a state as bad as anybody else does. But my main goal as the head football coach is to make sure that when these kids leave my program, that one day I've helped to make them better dads, better husbands, better workers, better business owners, things of that such. And I think that's one of the biggest problems, in my opinion, with high school sports right now. Sometimes it's not the kids, it's the parents. You know what I mean? Having unrealistic expectations. Because I tell my parents all the time, and I have this do the same thing when I meet with them in February. They all want, every parent in my program or any program in the state of Georgia all wants them to start the same 11 kids. They want them to start the best 10 kids they got in their child. And I got to let them know I'm going to do what's best for this program, whether he starts or however you want to say it. So that's what we try to do. But it's hard sometimes when you got a kid that's totally believing in your program, but you may have a parent that's totally dogging your program whenever your kid gets in the car. And like I tell them, if you have a problem with what we're doing, please have a conversation with me. Practice is always open. We can always have those difficult conversations. You may not like what I have to say, but I'm going to tell you what I think is going to be what's best for our program, in my opinion.
Well, how much do you think your foundation at Liberty, your 5 years at Liberty, and going to that type of university helped shape your career and how you deal with those difficult conversations and how you build young men?
I think it definitely laid the foundation. I think my grandmother laid it. Very good church-going woman, and I think everything that I do is try to piggyback on that. I did a couple of speeches last year, and I said everybody always asks me what got y'all over the hump. How did y'all go from 7-4, 8-4, 10-2 to a 13-1 season? And I tell them all it's simple. It's simple for me. All those years before, my years at Creekside and my first 6 years at Douglas County at the end of every practice, I prayed with my team. We would say the Lord's Prayer. But I read a book by John Gordon called One Truth. Unbelievable book. And what I do now is at the end of practice, I don't pray with my team, I pray for my team. So we always ended on that prayer request, things we need to pray for, traveling mercies, getting home, traveling mercies back to school, making sure they're praying for them academically. So I think that's very important.
Yeah, and anybody that's listening, and I'm not at all making light of this, I coached at Lithia Springs High School, and traveling mercies at Douglas County, not Douglas County High School, but that area, anywhere in Metro, is a real thing, because there were days where they would come on the intercom and say, hey, don't take attendance yet. There's been an accident on I-20, and the kids will get here when they get here. And
exactly.
And there's just, because they're traveling, across town or wherever to get to your school, and traffic is so bad that, if there's an accident, the kids can't help it, and if they're on a bus, they can't help it. They get there when they get there, and you never know, because there's so much more opportunity for accidents just because of the sheer number. And it's not like a rural place like where I'm at. You know, there ain't a whole lot for them to get into. Well, you have to deal with that distraction as well because you got a big mall. You got lots of places to eat. They got other things they can do other than play football.
Exactly. So I think that's very important in the situation as well. So I totally agree with you. You never know. I mean, you never know what could happen. You hear horror stories all the time of kids getting in bad accidents and this, that, and the such. So yeah, just gotta stay prayed up.
And you got an interstate running right by your school. I mean, it's not like you have. It's not like you have a major highway. You have I-20 runs right by. I mean,
so
you got to get on.
It was so crazy. Yeah, it was so crazy. 2023 season, we're warming up playing Lee County, which is a huge game for us. And while we're warming up, all the lights go off because there was a major accident on I-20 and they hit the power. So there was no power from the mall all the way through the hospital for Douglas County for an hour.
Oh, God.
So luckily for us, the people came and said, well, the thing that saves you is your school is on the same power grid as the hospital. So, that's the first power grid that they have to fix.
Right.
So we end up not starting the game till I think 8:30, 8:45.
That's insane. But at least you got to host, and you didn't have to go. Yeah, at least
you got to host. Yeah,
and that was
came out with a win, which was great for our program. I think that was one of the biggest wins in history for us.
Absolutely, that was an epic game. I'm real good friends with Coach Fabrizio, and before that game, he was like, "Lamb, they got some freakishly good athletes up there," and I'm like, "Oh, you'll be fine. Y'all got them too." And he was like, not like they do. He's like, they're really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
So he was like, we're going up there. It's going to be, it's going to be a great game. And it was. It ended up being a really good game. Yeah.
And it allowed me to build a relationship with him. He's a great man. So we stay in contact a lot.
Yeah, there's so many great coaches in the business.
That's another great thing about Georgia. You're able to build relationships with people that you wouldn't, spend a lot of time with. Like I'm real close with Coach Alec Good now over at who was at Northside, who's now the athletic director at Jones County, Coach Fabrizio, Coach Reeves at Milton. Just some great guys.
Yeah, I got to work for Alec Good at Northside. I was with him there, and he's just a good human. Great person. Do anything for you.
I always got to keep an eye on Northside. My wife went there, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my wife went to Northside.
Okay.
Yeah.
I loved it when I was there. I was there during COVID, and it's a good place. It's an interesting place, and
it is.
But there's a lot of interesting places in the state of Georgia, and you've been to a lot of them and had a lot of success, and I know you're going to continue to have more success the way you run your program and pour into the kids at Douglas County and the way you've poured into kids everywhere you've been. And I just appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us, Coach.
Not a problem. I appreciate you asking me to come.
Well, thanks, Coach, and I'll be getting in touch with you. If there's anything in the world I can ever do for you, just let me know.
I definitely will. Thank you.
Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. Victory Lane? Yeah, it's even better with Chumba by my side. Race to ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See T&Cs. 21+. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
When you manage procurement for multiple facilities, every order matters. But when it's for a hospital system, they matter even more. Grainger gets it and knows there's no time for managing multiple suppliers and no room for shipping delays. That's why Grainger offers millions of products in fast, dependable delivery, so you can keep your facility stocked, safe, and running smoothly. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.